Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Unit 8.2 Notes, Day 1. Today we're going to be talking about writing quadratic equations in vertex form by completing the square. Our learning target today is to be able to rewrite a quadratic equation in standard form from vertex form. Okay, so quick reminder on standard form. Okay, we've talked about this a lot. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And then when we're on the right-hand side, when we're talking about vertex form, y equals a parentheses the x minus h squared plus k. All right, so let's go ahead and look at standard form on the left. So the first thing that we talked about is we talked about how we need to know what a is, what b is, and what c is. Okay, so identifying those coefficients. So a is 1, b is 4, and c is 3. We need to find the vertex, okay? And when we are finding the vertex, we're going to use the equation x equals the opposite of b over 2a. All right, so if I'm using that formula, we're going to say that x equals the opposite of b. Well, b is 4. So that's negative 4. That's the opposite. And then we're doing 2 times 1. So on the top we have negative 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And then the negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Okay, so that tells me what my x value is for the vertex, okay? Remember, the vertex kind of drives our graph. Okay, so if you want to write a little reminder that the way that you found that was the opposite of b over 2 times a. All right, and now that tells me, well, the other two numbers I need to look at are negative 3 and negative 4, and then negative 1 and 0. So there are multiple ways that we can graph this, okay? I think the fastest way is to take out your graphing calculators and to plug that equation in, okay? So I'm writing the x squared plus 4x, what is it, plus 3, okay? And as I'm looking at that now, I find my vertex. You can see where I'm highlighting negative 2. That tells me the rest of the points, okay? So it's negative 2, negative 1, and then it was 0 and 3, and then 0 and 3, because these guys match and those match. All right, let's go ahead and graph this. So negative 2, negative 1, there's my point. Then we're at negative 1, and then negative 3, 0, and then at 0, 3, which means I'm at negative 4, 3. As I am graphing this, I am making sure that I have a curved bottom, okay, and that we're adding our arrows, okay? Another thing that you can add into here is your axis of symmetry. Remember that the axis of symmetry goes straight through your vertex, okay? So let's take a look. Did this open up or down? Well, it opened up, okay? And you can double check that by looking from the very beginning. Our original equation is x squared. It's a positive, so that means it's going up. Yay, we did that right. Okay. Our vertex is the point, and that's the point negative 2, negative 1. Our axis of symmetry, that's an equation with x, and it goes through the vertex, so it's going to be x equals negative 2. And now we actually have to look at our graph. So y-intercept, where does it cross the y-axis? Okay, remember here's your y-axis, and we have a point right there at what? What's that point at? Yeah, it's at 0, 3. Okay, so our y-intercept is 0, 3. And then our x-intercepts, where it crosses the x-axis, once again, we have 2 points there. And those are the points -3, 0, and was it -1, 0? Okay, so that's all a reminder. Okay, I'll highlight those real quick. Those were where we got those 2 points. That's what we did when we started the unit. Now we're talking about vertex form. So once again, the first thing that I want to do, what is my vertex? Okay, so when I'm doing my vertex, I want the opposite, and this stays the same. Okay, so the opposite of +2 is -2, and then the opposite, or no, then it stays the same, and that's at -1. Okay, so being Mr. Grice, I like to graph that right away. That's my vertex, which means I can draw my axis of symmetry going straight through that point. Okay, now let's take a look at the other points. So it's going to be -3, -4, -1, and 0. Okay, I'm going straight back over here. We have a new equation, so I'm going to delete that one out. And I'm going to plug this in directly as I see it. So x plus 2 squared minus 1. And then I hit second graph, and that shows my table. And I'm starting to notice something. What are you guys noticing compared to our last one? Yeah, isn't it exactly the same? Yeah, it's the same equation in standard form and in vertex form. We talked about this a little bit the other day. I'm just graphing the other points right now. That should be nothing new. Drawing my parabola. Okay, so there we go. We've talked about how in standard form and vertex form we can go back and forth. I did an example in class, and if you watched the video from 8.1 day 2, I go through in video 1, I go through that as well. Now everything should be the exact same as the other one. Okay, look at our A is positive, so that means it's going up. We had the same vertex of -2, -1. Okay, so our axis of symmetry is -2 because all we do is look at that x value. And then yeah, our y-intercept was 0, 3. And then it crossed the x-axis at -3, 0 and -1, 0. Okay, so the question is, if the graphs were the same, how is that possible if the equations didn't look the same? So the other day, what I was just talking about, I went from here and I showed you how to get there. What we're learning today is how to look at this equation and how to put it in vertex form. Okay, so that's what this is all about today. So our goal is to go from standard form to vertex form, and it's called by completing the square. Okay, it's something you are going to be using the next couple of years. Okay, so our goal is to have our equation look just like this. Okay, completing the square means rewriting. We are not changing the value of the equation. All right, so let's see if I can look at both of these. So step 1, we need to label A, B, and C, and then it says to move C off to the side. So here we go. My A is 1, my B is 4, and the C is 3. Okay, so what that means, we're just going to rewrite it, the ax squared plus 4x, and they said take your C and just move it off to the side for now, okay? We are going to use it. It doesn't poof disappear. It's right there, okay? Now let's look at step 2. So step 2 is saying add the b over 2 squared to create a new trinomial, and then we're going to subtract it to the constant term. Like, Mr. Grice, that looks like Chinese. It's not Chinese, okay? Let me show you what you're doing. I'm just going to set it up. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be adding something right here. And then remember that plus 3, guys? It didn't go away. And then I'm going to be subtracting something. Well, Mr. Grice, what are we going to subtract? Well, that's the b over 2 divided by, or b divided by 2 squared. Okay? So, what's b? B is 4 divided by 2 squared. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 2 squared gives us 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and then I'm going to subtract 4 over there. Okay? So all this part right here, this is what we are going to factor. Okay? So if I'm going to factor this, and guys, this is why factoring was so important. I'm going to do my side factoring work over here. Is there a GCF? The first thing we always check, GCF. No. Okay, there's nothing I can take out of all of those. So I want a number that I can multiply to get to 4. Remember, we're doing the A times C right there. What number multiplies to 4, but also adds up to get to 4? So if you're looking at your times table chart, or if you're doing the factors, it's 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Okay? Well, what ends up working is 2 times 2 equals 4, and 2 plus 2 equals 4. So I can now change that to y equals, and guys, this is what we were doing, you guys were doing in the math resource. Since our leading coefficient was 1, I can go straight into the shortcut where it's x plus 2 and x plus 2. Okay? And I got that, guys. I'm getting those numbers from right here. Don't worry, we're going to be going through a lot of these if you're having questions. Okay, so don't freak out yet. Okay, so now I have that, but let's not forget about the plus 3 and the negative 4. Well, what's plus 3 minus 4? I can start to simplify that. And we get, yeah, negative 1. Okay, and now the very last step when we're talking about our goal right here, so you can, I'm kind of trying to highlight it up in the right-hand corner. Those two binomials repeat themselves, so that's where we get the x plus 2 squared, and then that minus 1 stays on the outside. So there is my vertex form. Okay, and then what's our vertex? Our vertex is the point. Remember, we take the opposite, and then the other one stays the same. So it's negative 2 minus 1. Okay, so that's where we factored, and then we wrote, I'm sorry, you guys can't see step 4, but step 4 was to write the equation in vertex form. Okay? All right, so I'm actually going to stop. Yeah, I'm going to stop the video right there. And then on the back side, I'm going to do numbers 3, 4, and 5 with you. Okay? So remember, don't freak out yet. Shouldn't be freaking out at all. It's just something new, okay? Well, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, or Algebra, Unit 8.2 Notes, Day 1. If you have questions, please come find Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, thanks for watching.